When you buy a Jeep Gladiator, you get what is arguably the most off-road capable vehicle there is, straight out of the factory. But you also get a vehicle that continues to be beset by reliability issues that include premature engine and transmission failures, serious oil and coolant leaks, and drive shaft noises and failures. You also get a host of electrical issues and failures, brake system leaks and brake failures, chipping and flaking paint around the door hinges, a roof that leaks water when it rains, and of course the infamous death wobble. Stay with us until the end of this video as we investigate what on earth is going on with Jeep Gladiator. The infamous death wobble. Affectionately known among Jeep fans and detractors alike as the death wobble, this phenomenon gets the first spot on this list of Jeep Gladiator problems because it is a dangerous condition that has caused the demise of many Jeep Gladiators in crashes. Essentially, the death wobble is a condition in which the front wheels begin to shake from side to side uncontrollably, and often without any warning. This usually, but not always, starts when one front wheel hits a bump or uneven spot on the road at speeds above 30 miles per hour, and once the wheels begin flailing from side to side, it sometimes progresses to a point where the vehicle becomes uncontrollable. As might be expected, the shaking front wheels cause a violent vibration on the steering wheel, and if a driver has never experienced a death wobble, their first reaction is typically to apply the brakes. But this always makes the situation worse, hence the name, the death wobble, that can, in severe cases, cause the entire vehicle to begin vibrating violently. So what causes the death wobble on Jeep Gladiators? There are many theories, and while it is known that even marginally worn ball joints, tie rod ends, and control arm bushings sometimes play a role in setting up the death wobble, the death wobble is also known to occur on low-mileage Jeep Gladiators, in which steering and suspension component wear is unlikely to be present. What is also known is the fact that lift kits, changes in the suspension geometry, and the oversized wheels so beloved by Jeep Gladiator fans can initiate the death wobble even on perfectly smooth roads. It is also worth pointing out that there is a direct link between the size and weight of the front wheels and the severity of the death wobble. Thus, the bigger and heavier the front wheels are, the more severe the death wobble becomes, which is perhaps the most compelling reason there is to keep the factory-fitted wheels on your Jeep Gladiator. Premature engine failures. The term premature engine failures casts a wide net, which is what is needed to capture all the known engine issues that beset Jeep Gladiator models with especially the 3.6-liter Pentastar engine, although no engine in Jeep Gladiator models is immune to some or most of the issues that beset the 3.6-liter engine. First off, one has to wonder who at Jeep ever thought it would be a great idea to make an engine oil cooler out of plastic, and then fit that oil cooler to an engine that works in the real world. In fact, cracked plastic oil coolers are without a doubt the most common cause of serious oil leaks on 3.6-liter engines. And while some owners manage to spot the problem in time, many Jeep Gladiator owners have had their engines seize up after a catastrophic plastic oil cooler failure. One other common issue on 3.6-liter Pentastar engines involves cylinder bank number 1. This bank of cylinders can start running lean for reasons that are not always clear, although many owners of Jeep Gladiators using a 3.6-liter engine have reported fuel injector issues as the cause, while many other owners have found engine vacuum leaks to be the cause. Whatever the cause of the lean running issue is, it's immaterial because lean running causes the affected bank of cylinders to run extremely hot, which in turn causes severe damage to the engine valves on that cylinder bank. Repairing or replacing the damaged valves requires the removal of the affected cylinder head, which is a hugely expensive undertaking if you have this procedure done professionally. Another common issue that causes premature engine failures on Jeep Gladiators is cooling system leaks and component failures that cause severe engine overheating, which in turn causes cylinder head gaskets to fail and pistons to seize in their bores. It is worth pointing out, however, that simply replacing blown cylinder head gaskets does not fix collapsed piston rings, cracked cylinder heads, or partially melted pistons that could result from an episode of serious engine overheating, all of which are hugely expensive to repair. In the interest of fairness, though, We must state that a large number of Jeep Gladiator owners have never experienced any kind of engine reliability issues, and many more will never experience these kinds of problems. However, we must also state that there is no telling whether or not the Jeep Gladiator you own or are planning on buying will not suffer a premature engine failure at some point in its life. Premature transmission failures. Jeep Gladiators, and if the truth were told, other Jeep models built over the past several years, have become notorious for the high incidence of transmission failures they experience. Moreover, pinpointing the root causes of transmission failures is less easy than identifying the causes of engine failure, because the transmission has to be removed from the vehicle and disassembled to diagnose the failure. Nonetheless, typical symptoms of transmission failure on Jeep Gladiators include, but are not limited to, harsh shifting, severe transmission slippage, a failure to select some or all gears, and grinding or rumbling noises at some or all engine speeds and loads. In many cases, transmission failures on Jeep Gladiators can be traced back to overloading or exceeding the vehicle's towing capacity, while in other cases, overfilling or underfilling the transmission during routine servicing can cause the transmission to overheat and subsequently fail. The problem with Jeep Gladiator transmissions, from the perspective of the average owner, is that the transmission has a so-called lifetime fill of transmission fluid, and draining and refilling the transmission on a DIY basis is, therefore, not recommended. However, in the real world, lifetime transmission fills is a dangerous myth perpetrated by car manufacturers, and one that has been thoroughly discredited by countless mechanics and technicians across the globe, because no commercially available transmission fluid formulation is intended or designed to last forever. So if you have the transmission fluid and filter in your Jeep Gladiator replaced by a dealership every 2 years or 30,000 miles or so, you'll almost certainly never experience a premature transmission failure on your Jeep Gladiator throughout its useful life. Electrical system failures. There is no doubt that Jeep Gladiators built over the past few years had the most badly designed and installed electrical systems of all comparable vehicles in the world today. This is very strange, given that Jeep Gladiators are meant to be used hard in environments that are typically not friendly to most other vehicles. Common electrical problems run the gamut from infotainment and navigation systems that black out intermittently or permanently in some cases, head and tail lights that flicker and go out, dashboard warning lights that illuminate in the absence of fault codes, engine management sensors that die, and oxygen sensors that generate erratic or implausible signals. While most of these kinds of issues are often caused by water intrusion into wiring harnesses or poor electrical connections, there is one standout electrical failure on Jeep Gladiators that deserves a special mention, this issue being the failure of the stop-and-go system. For reasons that are probably only understood by the engineers who designed the Jeep Gladiator, the battery that powers the stop-and-go system is connected to the main or primary battery. While this is not a problem in itself, the stop-and-go system is unnecessarily complicated by the fact that the auxiliary or stop-and-go battery is much smaller, and therefore has a much smaller capacity than the primary battery. So even though the stop-and-go battery is used exclusively to start the engine during stop-and-go events, long use eventually causes the small battery to fail, which, when it happens after 18 months or so of use, causes fatal damage to occur to the main battery as well. If the two batteries were not connected, the failure of the smaller stop-and-go battery would not affect the primary battery. But as it happens, the failure of the primary battery eventually immobilizes the vehicle. Given that a Jeep Gladiator's transmission locks in position when the battery fails, poses an obvious safety risk when the battery fails at a traffic light or stop sign. And although jump-starting an affected Jeep Gladiator might get it moving again, it is sometimes not possible to deactivate the stop-and-go system after a battery failure. This means that the engine will switch off at the next stop. But since the stop-and-go battery is dead, the engine will not start again, and so on and so forth, until both of the damaged batteries are replaced and registered in the vehicle's electrical system. The only sure way to prevent this kind of issue from happening is to replace the stop-and-go battery at least once a year, or more often if you venture off-road regularly, where a jump start might not be available.